I'm breaking off my engagement to my fiancé because he might get really sick in the future, and he wants to live his best life now without knowing, but I want him to get tested so we can be informed and prepared. Posted by you/just need an Ammy, okay? My fiancé and I have been together for 5 years. He's the love of my life, and I literally can't imagine being without him. So the thought of doing this is making my stomach turn. He was adopted, and neither he nor his parents knew much about his medical history. A few weeks ago, he met his biological brother for the first time and found out that his birth father had passed away from Huntington's disease. There's a 50% chance that my fiancé also has the genetic defect that causes Huntington's, but he refuses to get tested. It's not the disease I'm scared of, it's the not knowing. If we know he'll get it, we can prepare financially, practically, and emotionally. He says a positive test result will hold him back from living his life, but I feel like it's the opposite. How can we live with this giant maybe looming over us? How can I make smart decisions about where to live, how to budget, or even whether or not to have biological children with this man if I'm not allowed to have all the facts? So, I've come to the decision that I have to break it off. I respect his decision, but I can't understand or accept it. I have literally no one I can talk to about this because it's his secret and not mine to tell. Top/relevant comments. Additional info from Op. I have to go to work now, but I'll try to continue responding throughout the day, especially to the comments that exactly mirror the dissenting voice in my head. I just want to clarify a few things up here. I would not leave him if he tested positive for the defect. I would not leave him if he got sick. I just want to plan for us to be able to afford the best life and care for him if he does, which means we'd have to start immediately. I don't want or need perfect children. That isn't realistic. But it is possible to avoid them being subjected to a 50-50 chance of having this disease. Of course, there are alternative options, but again, they involve preparation and planning. I'm more than willing to take a full genetic panel as well. Yes, one or both of us could get cancer, become permanently disabled in an accident, or face any number of other things. But I've come to learn that you can't plan for every unpredictable thing life throws at you. This is the rare occasion where we do have the opportunity to prepare. Essentially, it comes down to the fact that we're incompatible, regardless of how much we love each other. I'm a planner, and he's very laid back. Until now, these traits have complemented each other, but unfortunately, they've brought us to an impasse that I don't think we can both move forward from happily. Commenter. He's terrified to know, and he's performing the psychological gymnastics of if I don't acknowledge it, it won't happen/it will go away. Give it some time. Talk to him, Op, and tell him he can't run from the potential reality, he needs to face it with you. Considering y'all have been together for so long, he should, I hope, have the courage to stand with you and face it together. Commenter 2. It's only been a few weeks. I'd give him time to process and absorb his feelings. Yes, a bad test result can very much affect one's outlook on life, and he'd be the one dealing with it. I know you're there to support him if he got sick, but in the end, he's the one who would be suffering from the disease. It's not the same. Tying your future to someone else definitely pulls you into things you'd rather avoid, so I understand your desire to plan and prepare for what you can, so you can better handle what you don't know and can't control. He deserves your love and support right now. You can postpone or see a couples therapist. Don't throw away a perfectly good relationship because your partner is still reeling from the loss of a father he never knew, the knowledge of a disease that could possibly kill him too, all with the pressures from a fiancé and wedding plans. These things take time. Op adds an edit to her post. I'm floored by all of these responses, supportive and otherwise. At the very least, I feel validated that this is a complex issue with no clear and obvious answer. I've decided to take a few steps back. Those of you who brought up the fact that a few weeks is probably too little time for him to fully process his possible diagnosis have a really valid point. Just because I want to immediately jump into problem-solving mode doesn't mean it's necessarily the right thing to do here. So, I'm not leaving, yet at least, and hopefully never. I'm going to find a therapist to help me work through my anxieties and give my fiancé some space, not literal, to work through his. And then we'll revisit this conversation, hopefully with more patience on my part and willingness to act on his. Update 7 months later. Hi, remember me? I posted earlier this year about my fiancé who was refusing to get tested for Huntington's after learning he had a 50-50 chance of having the genetic defect. Some of you gave me great advice and support, others the wake-up call I needed, and the rest of you, well, gonna read it. I'm not sure if it was obvious, but I was not in a good place when I made that post. When I stress, I don't sleep or eat. For him, it may have only been a few weeks to accept the situation, but for me, it was a few long weeks of nonstop anxiety where I was lucky to get even an hour of restless sleep a night. I was plain exhausted on top of everything else and only began to consider leaving when I started to hit my breaking point. Anyway, we talked about it. At length. We cried, we fought, we researched, I showed him empathy. We consulted with friends, family, and specialists. We pressed pause for days or weeks when we needed a break from the whole damn thing, and in the end, he agreed to have the test. Guys, to say we dodged an absolute maelstrom of bullets would be putting it mildly. He's negative, both for developing the disease himself as well as the risk of passing it on. No matter what else happens, this is one area where he's assuredly safe. All of this said, once the euphoria faded, we decided it was necessary to put a hold on our engagement and take some time apart. I still love him with all my heart, but this was our first serious disagreement as a couple, and it forced us to seriously reflect on ourselves and our relationship. Neither of our positions was wrong, but they were so disparate that there was no realistic compromise. I've spent the last few months traveling abroad, and other than a few texts, we haven't spoken much. But I'm home now, and we have our second first date tonight. Wish me luck. _relevant comments. Additional info from Op. I mentioned this a million times in my first post, but here goes again. I had no plans to leave if he tested positive. I just needed to know so that we could plan our lives accordingly. We decided together to take a break. It's been an incredibly difficult, emotionally charged roller coaster of a year. I didn't leave him. We planned from day one to keep communication to a minimum. It was difficult. I actually began keeping a journal of all the things I wanted to call or text him about. It's extensive, and I can't wait to share it with him. I didn't give him an ultimatum, but I understand why that's the takeaway. I only told Reddit that I was thinking of leaving, and I know that it was rash and irrational. No, I'm not going to kill myself. Sorry if that disappoints you. Second update 1 day later. This title continues to be embarrassingly bad and now irrelevant, but I kind of feel like I'm stuck with it now, sorry. If you're new here, my fiancé found out he was at risk of developing Huntington's disease. I wanted him to get tested, and he did not. Months later, he did, and thank God, he was negative. The whole thing put such a strain on us that we decided to take a break. Last night, we went on our second first date. And I can't believe how many of you want to hear about it. Of course I couldn't leave you hanging, but there are a few things I want to address first, so please bear with me for a few more sentences. It feels like many of you are determined for there to be a bad guy here, but please don't put this label on my fiancé. He doesn't deserve it. He's not a jerk, a prick, or an ostrich. He's a man who was suddenly forced to face his own mortality. He had a very human response, and I didn't make it any easier on him during those first few weeks. On that note, it's great that so many of you guys always react perfectly to every tough situation life throws at you. I'm sadly not like that. Sometimes I screw up, like I did by not initially giving him enough time to process. But I owned up to that, took several steps back, and he forgave me. I don't know what else you want from me. Lastly, there are a lot of comments about how the obvious compromise was to just act like he had it. But you know what? It was the idea of living like he was dying that actually drove him to get tested. He didn't want us to unnecessarily save half our paychecks instead of using them to enjoy life. Or deal with the complications of IVF if we didn't have to. Or forego opportunities that didn't play nicely with the end-of-life care plans we'd be making. Essentially, he concluded, in his words, that the cat was already halfway out of the bag, and it could come out, but it was never going back in. If he was positive, we'd be obsessing over every little thing being a possible symptom. But if we left things as they were, we'd be doing that anyway. That doesn't mean it was easy at all. We actually had to make a second appointment to get the results because he couldn't bring himself to hear them the first time. But that was okay. I was there for him the whole time to support him however he needed me to. Okay, I'm done with that, onto what you actually clicked for. Do you guys know the feeling of watching your favorite childhood movie for the first time in years and being nervous that it won't hold up or have the same magic you remember? That's kind of what I was feeling yesterday, and I actually have to thank everyone jumping down my throat in the comments, because you did a great job of distracting me from the butterflies in my stomach. Well, the magic was still there. We may have spent months apart, but it didn't feel that way at all. In fact, everything felt even better and more comfortable than when we parted. We felt like the happy couple we'd been back in January before this whole thing started. It was like there was a weight hanging over our relationship that was keeping us from actually moving forward despite the good news, and it's finally been lifted. Before last night, I couldn't remember the last time anything with him felt bright and easy. But we're back, baby. I know the general consensus was that this was a dumb move, that we should have opted for marriage counseling instead of going our own ways for a bit. I'm not a relationship counselor, and I'm not recommending this method to anyone. I don't know why it worked for us. All I know is that we were both so drained at the time, and we each had the same gut feeling that a complete separation was what we needed. Our relationship had become far more exhausting than fun, and I honestly believe that we wouldn't have made it if we'd forced ourselves to work together to fix it. Again, don't take relationship advice from me, but trust your instincts, you have them for a reason. And I'm sure you'll be happy to know that he wasn't sitting at home pining for me while I traipsed around Europe not having sex with people. He was busy with his own adventure, he bought a car, we live in Manhattan, so that's a pretty big thing, and road tripped across the country. We stayed up all night sharing stories and pictures and telling each other about the people we'd met. It was absolutely amazing sharing our experiences with each other. I know it may seem like it would have been better if we'd done it together, but there was something really special about living it through each other's eyes. Anyway, we have the rest of our lives to travel the world together. Because we're not breaking up, suck on that, people who were hoping he'd leave me. Look, we know this new honeymoon period we're in won't last forever, but I really think we're prepared to handle whatever other challenges life tries to throw at us. Honestly, there's a pretty good chance we've already gotten through the worst one, knock wood, but even if there's something bigger and badder waiting for us, I'm completely optimistic we'll be okay. So, that's that. We've officially reached the other side of our first major life issue together. Did either of us behave perfectly? No. Are we going to be perfect next time? Probably not. Are we 100% committed to combining our completely opposite ways of dealing with crises into a superpower designed to crush conflict like a 90s cartoon? Absolutely. Thanks for listening to my story, everyone. Roll credits. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. So happy for this update. I was rooting for y'all. I'm so sorry for all the hate you got. I think your position was reasonable, and I understood his as well. Most people who were talking crap have never experienced anything close to what y'all did. So glad it made you stronger. Ops response. Thank you. I think most of the people giving me hate don't know much about Huntington's disease. It's kind of in a league of its own as far as diseases are concerned.